All right, hello and welcome back to another episode of Just a Girl from Cleveland. This is episode 149. Sorry it has been a couple weeks since I recorded. The weeks got busy, didn't find the right time to be recording, but back today, have a couple of fun NFL topics to get into. Just a little bit of a different episode since obviously there's not a lot happening right now in the NFL world. It's kind of a dead time, like I mentioned previously. Once the schedule release happens, it's like you have OTAs, but nothing really exciting is happening there. I personally am not someone who is going to get overly invested in, a nice throw and a nice catch that you see in OTAs because it really doesn't mean anything or tell you anything of how your season is going to go. So I guess it's fun to get excited about. And look, I don't like to hate on people getting excited about things because I think it's great to be excited about things. I have trouble with OTAs on, making any assumptions or opinions on any players based on what they're doing at this point in time. So won't be doing any of that, but do have a couple of other fun topics. So first, I wanted to quickly touch on two big contracts that just happened that were not Browns related, but obviously whenever, any important contracts are happening, it does have an effect on the rest of the league, how players at that position are going to be getting paid. And these were two of the biggest out there. So we have Justin Jefferson and Christian McCaffrey, both two of the best players at their positions. A lot of people, I think, would say both of them are 1 and 1 at their position currently. So pretty important to see these deals come through. Justin Jefferson signed a 4-year, $140 million contract extension. It includes $110 million guaranteed, obviously making him the top paid wide receiver in the league, which, look, every contract of the big guys at the position are going to beat the next. So it's not like super shocking to see that because it feels like, every few months, the next contract is the biggest contract we've ever seen at that particular position. So good for Justin Jefferson. I think there was obviously some smoke over a couple of months on like whether or not he was going to end up somewhere else. But it felt like most likely they were going to be extending him, and that is what happened. Then for Christian McCaffrey, he got a 2-year extension where he's now averaging $19 million per year. So just a little bit more than what he was averaging previously. But I think, even though it's not a huge, massive change in terms of money, I think it's a big deal for the running back position because those guys have continued to get paid less and less. And I think Christian McCaffrey has really set himself apart into his own category almost for how valuable he has been for the 49ers since he was traded there. And he has been such an important part of that offense and what they do and what their identity is. So I think he's really proven his value, and they obviously wanted to give him that extension to show him that. So I thought that was really interesting just in terms of how running backs have been talked about the last couple of years. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is the show that the Browns put out on, it's on YouTube. I don't know if it's anywhere else, if it's probably on the Browns site itself, but I finally got a chance to sit down and watch the first 3 episodes of it. The show is called Unleashed, so if you search that on YouTube, you'll be able to watch the episodes there. And I personally love any of the content that is taking the fan inside the locker room, inside a day in the life of, someone who is a part of that organization. I think it's always really cool to give fans that perspective that we just don't get to see, especially during the off season, like what that looks like, what's going on for the players, what's going on for the team. I think it's always really fascinating. So watch those first 3 episodes. Had a couple of thoughts on each of them. I think overall, my biggest takeaway is that I just have such an immense amount of respect for the amount of work that these players are putting in during the off season to continue to take care of their body, to, recover a lot of times too, especially after a long season, but also, grow and perfect things and get stronger and all that stuff. I think it takes such a special commitment. I mean, I am someone who tries to wake up in the morning and go to the gym, and I know it is extremely hard to do so. So I can't imagine day in and day out having to take care of my body the way that they do. I think it is really, really impressive. So that's just like overall general thoughts. And I think the first episode of it that focused on Jerry Jeudy really exemplified that. He seems to have a really incredible work ethic, an ability to self-motivate in the off season and continue to keep his body in good shape. They showed a lot of just his day-to-day, whether it was like hitting the weight room or getting out on the field and running some routes, or just, everything that he is doing to try to improve himself. I thought one of the big interesting takeaways from that one too was that he mentioned, and the organization, like players within the organization mentioned that they had been trying to get Jerry Jeudy for a very long time. So he was aware for a long time that the Browns wanted him, and Andrew Berry and other people in the organization made it clear that they have wanted him for a very long time. And I think I'm glad that they're making that known, because look, obviously they signed him to this extension that a lot of people are questioning because he has not proven himself to necessarily be worth that amount of money yet. They're kind of projecting towards the future. So I think it's really important to vocalize that confidence about him and how they feel about him as a player, to make him feel like he can have success here. If you're going to pay someone like that, the only way to do it is to really go all in on them and make them feel like they are going to be an important part of what you're doing as an offense. So I thought that was pretty cool to see as well. And I liked that they focused that first episode kind of on him. The second episode was focused on one of my favorites, David Njoku. I enjoyed that one too. He's like a much funnier and goofy guy than I feel like sometimes it can look like on the field. Like, I know he has like his fun celebrations and stuff, but they can be so serious on the field sometimes. And he is just kind of a goofy guy, enjoys having fun, keeping things light with the guys. Whenever he's mic'd up on the sidelines and in the game, you can tell he's always kind of joking around and having fun. Like, they included the one clip of him from this past season when our kicker went down and we were like, what are we going to do about kicker? And he kept like begging Kevin Stefanski to allow him to kick. It was hilarious. And they included that clip in it as well, which I thought was funny. I think some of the big things they talked about with him were his main focus this offseason is on actually losing weight and focusing on speed. So he's dropped a decent amount of weight, looking a little slimmer for sure. And that's his real priority, is focusing on speed. I think, when you see him out there on that field, he's obviously a really, already a really fast and strong tight end. He has the strength there. I mean, he barreled over an entire defense at one point in time just by himself with his angry run last season. So I think, he already has a lot of that, just trying to continue to sharpen those skills and get faster, which we are always down for. He also talked a lot about how he became a man really in Cleveland and that he has grown up here. And I think the way they highlighted his story in the city was so cool, because it hasn't always been rainbows and butterflies like it is right now. It was really hard for a long time. He and Stefanski, I don't think we're getting along the best. I don't think he was necessarily happy with his role on the team and what he was doing. And for it to be where it is now, and for him to be a really vocal leader on this team, is just so cool to see. And I think it shows that if there's talent there, and you're a well-equipped organization to handle different personalities, different types of players, like, it is worth it to have some patience and, hope that they're going to continue to grow into what you see that they can be. And I think that's definitely the case for David. And I think it's only going to continue to get better this season. I'm so excited to watch him and just how they decide to use him in the offense this year. And then episode 3 focused on Mike Hall. So we had a rookie to focus on for this one. I think, the big thing that him and everyone else in that episode talked about was his explosiveness. That was kind of the common theme of the episode, and how well he's going to fit in a Jim Schwartz defense because of that, his ability to get after the quarterback, just like I said, an explosive pass rusher. Common theme from everyone. One funny moment I did enjoy in this one was Jim Schwartz saying that Cleveland is an Ohio State town, which is great for my Buckeye agenda. And I know there's many people in Cleveland who like to hate on Ohio State, so it was fun for me to hear Jim Schwartz say it's an Ohio State town. So take that, everyone. But yeah, I mean, he mentioned that because obviously Mike Hall is from the area. He went to Ohio State, so he really has that homegrown feel. And I think, that can be looked like fluff at some point to a lot of people, like not that important. But I think it's really cool, and it means a lot to the people in the area. I think it means a lot to him. I think it means a lot for how much he's going to care to play in the city. A lot of people don't, look forward to moving to. I think it is cool to have someone like that who, knows the people here. He went back to his old high school in episode 2 and was talking to teachers and coaches and all that stuff. And I really enjoyed seeing that part of that. And, just hope he is going to be a good fit here. Obviously, that is yet to be seen. So yeah, those were kind of my big takeaways from that. Just kind of wanted to highlight some of that. Highly recommend going to watch it. I don't know how many episodes they do, but really enjoyed those 3 ones. They're really quick, like 15, 20 minutes. Okay. So now I wanted to get into a fun little activity that it seems like every podcast that covers the NFL does during the off season at some point. I've seen a ton doing it lately. And I got the inspiration for the format I'm going to be applying to mine from the great Mina Kimes. But we're going to do some quarterback rankings going into the 2024 season. And the logic that Mina applied to it that I'm going to apply to mine is who you would want for the next 3 years. And the reason it's 3 years is because, if you said 1 year, you would probably put all of the rookies at the bottom. And, you don't necessarily want to do that. Some of them might still go pretty low and at the bottom because it takes a long time to become a good quarterback in this league. And then, for the older quarterbacks, like 3 years can still, they can still be playing at a decently high level. If you said, quarterback for the next 10 years, well then, the Aaron Rodgers, the Kirk Cousins, those guys would be automatically last because they are going to be out of the league at that point. So 3 years felt like a good range of timelines, and I liked kind of how she laid that out. So that is the logic I took. So as I go through these, rather than kind of going one by one, I think I'm going to group them in 5 and just kind of give some highlights of why I put those guys there, just so I'm not sitting here reading quarterback one by one. So the top 5 that I have, number 1, obviously Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if that's shocking to anyone or if anyone has him anywhere else on their list. I think that would be pretty wild because I think he far and away has to be number 1. I think from there's definitely a lot of debate out there, but I think Patrick is definitely number 1. 2, Josh Allen. 3, Lamar Jackson. 4, Justin Herbert. And 5, Joe Burrow. So even though obviously the Bills have had some struggles over the years, I think Josh is still such an elite and talented player at what he does and elevates everyone around him, that I still feel like he is the second best quarterback in this league. I think a lot of people might have Joe Burrow a little bit higher. And I think my reasoning for having him 5th below Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson is quite honestly because of his injury history. And I think if you're looking at the next 3 years, it is certainly a concern of whether or not he is going to be healthy. It has greatly affected big chunks of multiple seasons in his career now. And I'm not confident that that's not going to be the case in the future. Like, I know Lamar has had some issues here and there. They've been kind of like sicknesses more so and random things like that. But last year he was pretty healthy for the most part. And I think people don't talk enough about Joe and his injuries and just the concern that might be for the future. So that might be controversial, but I have him down there at 5. Still think he's obviously super talented. He's taken his team to the Super Bowl. He elevates the guys around him. Like, I believe all of those things still, but I just don't know about his ability to stay on the field. And I think that has to be taken into account at some point when ranking quarterbacks. Okay, 6 through 10, I have Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, CJ Stroud, and Jordan Love. I struggle with like the exact order of these, so that's why I also feel better about the groupings, because I feel like all these guys kind of belong in the same bucket, and I could move many of them up or down within that bucket and still feel pretty good about it. Um, I almost had Jalen, I think, lower than where I have him here, just because of how much the Eagles struggled for the majority of last season, but really just continued to go downhill towards the end of last season. But I still think that that is a talented team, and that's a talented quarterback. And I'm interested to see if they're going to bounce back. But I wouldn't be surprised if next season I were to do this and he would be super far down on this list, maybe into the teens, 20, like even around there. Like that would not shock me just based on the trajectory of that team. But I just feel like right now, from what I've seen, I'm still gonna have him in this kind of second group here. I was really excited to put CJ and Jordan Love in this group because I think they were two of the most exciting players to watch in general last season at any position, and very exciting for their teams to have found that kind of talent at quarterback. And I think the fact that they were able to show it consistently throughout the season, and I don't think it was just like a blip in time or just a moment. I think, they've both proven who they are as quarterbacks, and still both pretty young. So I had to put them in this grouping here, even in front of some quarterbacks that maybe have been playing longer and maybe had more seasons of success. I just think based on what they have shown, they have to go ahead of them. Okay, so the next grouping we have 11 through 15. I have Brock Purdy, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Geno, and Jared Goff. Like when you read those names, you're like, yeah, those guys just all go together. And Trevor is someone similar to Jalen Hurts where I would have concerns about him dropping just based on the trajectory in a similar way to the Jags throughout last season. Like I just don't know what happened to that team as the year went on. And then obviously that last week of the season, they completely crumbled and weren't able to make it to the playoffs. So still some questions there in general. Jared Goff, I think, has been a consistent player in this league for a very long time, and has played on some really talented teams that have elevated him in a lot of ways. I still think, I don't want to completely discount him. He is 15 on this list, so that's still like, right in the middle pretty much, average quarterback. Think he's a talented guy, but some people might want to put him higher because of overall team success, but I think that's due to so many other factors and not really just him. Also, I feel like it might be controversial to have Brock Purdy that high, but it's just like 2 years in a row now. It's like I can't put him lower outside of that group of guys just based on everything we've seen from him. So hats off to Brock Purdy, man. He's proven so many people wrong. Okay, 16 through 20. Things are getting interesting. So I have in this group Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams, the first rookie up on this list, Baker Mayfield, Kirk Cousins, and Aaron Rodgers. Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers obviously are two guys that I think, have shown so much more talent, have had more impressive seasons than most of the guys on this list. But when you're looking in the next 3 years, you have two guys coming off of an Achilles injury, which is a pretty brutal injury. And I think people are often overlooking with the two of them, especially with Aaron, what they're going to be able to look like this season coming back from that. I just don't trust it in general, and have a lot of fears, especially at their age. They're both, definitely up there in terms of age for an athlete. So certainly some concerns there overall. So I put Caleb Williams in this group. Interestingly, I feel like a lot of people might still have rookies lower, but I just feel like out of all of the rookies, I feel the most confident in him in the next 3 years being able to establish himself on the Bears as a decent quarterback just with the group that they have there right now. Feeling pretty promising about Caleb Williams in general. Okay, next grouping, 21 through 25. We've got Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr, And then 23 is Russell Wilson / Justin Fields. So I kind of grouped any of the quarterback competition guys together in one. So maybe if I split them up, I'd have one higher, one lower throughout. But we're just kind of grouping them in one and rating that group overall as a whole. So again, for that group, Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr, Russell Wilson / Justin Fields, then Anthony Richardson, then Bryce Young. Anthony and Bryce Young, two still very young quarterbacks that have a lot of promise, just really haven't been able to show it yet. I considered putting Anthony Richardson higher because I think he showed way more flashes than Bryce Young has shown, but still just kind of had to fit him here on this list. Deshaun Watson has obviously had some very impressive seasons in his career, but just based on what he has done with the Cleveland Browns as of recently and his injury history, had to put him a little lower. Obviously, I think he could very much still be higher and has the capability of being a top 10 quarterback, even a top 5 quarterback in this league, but has not proven that in the last couple of years. So I think 21 is a pretty fair spot for him right now, just all things considered. I'd probably have Justin Fields higher than Russell Wilson on this list if I were separating them because of age. I think Russell is really close probably to being on his way out, whereas Justin, I think, still has a lot of promise in there, but grouping them together, that's kind of where they landed. Okay, and since there's not just 5 left, we're going to just do this last 26 through 32 in a group together. So we have at 26, the combination of Jacoby Brissett and Drake May. 27, Daniel Jones. 28, Will Levis. 29, Jaden Daniels. 30, the combination of Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. 31, Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy. And then 32, Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix. The Broncos in a very interesting spot at this point in time. Okay, so Jacoby and Drake May, I had trouble placing this one because I actually think if it was just Jacoby, I think I'd have him way higher. And maybe that's my Jacoby Brissett bias, my personal bias towards that man. But I probably would have put him higher because I just think he has proven to be a really serviceable quarterback in this league. But with the combination, I kind of just put him there. And, a lot of the other rookies are kind of at the end there. JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, just don't really know if they're going to be able to be successful NFL quarterbacks. It's not to say it's not going to happen, but my belief in them is a little bit lower. And I honestly don't know when those teams plan on starting either of those quarterbacks or when they're going to be getting out there. So we'll kind of have to wait and see there. The Aiden O'Connell Gardner Minshew combination was hard to place because I feel like my Browns fan bias has given me some stress from last season with Gardner Minshew when he was on the Indianapolis Colts and the way he played against the Browns in that game. He was really impressive. So I'm like, oh, should Gardner Minshew be higher? But then I remember watching him in other games and not feeling exactly the same way about it. So yeah, that is kind of the general list. I feel pretty good, I think, overall about where everything lies. It'll be fascinating to see things at the end of the season and, if these guys kind of were to rise or fall, but always a good exercise. And really honestly was a reminder of just how much talent there is in this league. Like, gosh, if there were no injuries every year, that would be the dream because there's so many talented quarterbacks here that create really interesting matchups. And it sucks when you get to like week 16 and you got the backups in and it's just not as fun anymore. So hoping for a season of few injuries. That's going to always be the goal. So that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening. Very much appreciate it. If you could just, as always, leave a review or rating, subscribe on the YouTube, follow there. Would very much appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, go Browns.